Hey Dan, can you hear me?
You did. So yes, I heard you.
Hey everybody, happy Thursday. We're almost there. We are almost there. We made it through CPI, we made it through PPI, tons of earnings. And tomorrow is Friday, which leads us into a long weekend because Monday the markets are closed for President's Day. So, hey there, everybody. Can you all hear and see me okay right now? I see John and Gene and Leaf and all sorts of people. Any of you guys old like me remember a show? God, it's got to be probably 50 years old called Romper Room. It was on like at the same time as Sesame Street was. And they would go through, it was like being in a nursery school class, and they would go through, saying everyone's name. We've got Bobby and Doug and Steve. And I feel like that when you guys are all here. But awesome. 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 All right. So unbelievable reaction to the markets, in my opinion. Yesterday we got CPI, a hot number, you know, pre-market S&P's dumped about 60 points and then kind of gradually just made most of that up during the day. And then today we get PPI, which is the producer price index, which is really a measure of what producers are getting for their goods and services. And that number came in hot also, yet maybe it wasn't as bad as expected, because we got the markets up today. And just as much as rates rose yesterday off of the CPI hot print, and we saw the 10-year go up to about 4.63, gave it all back today. Gave it all back today. So who knows in this marketplace, right? But what I do know, as you all know also, following us along, that this is a fantastic trading environment. It is a fantastic trading environment. Not only is it a fantastic trading environment for stocks and equities and options, it is a fantastic trading environment to trade futures also. And we are rolling out our futures program tonight. And so ahead of that, I am bringing in actually someone that I have known. It's probably Dan. Soon, why don't you come on in here, Dan? There we go. This is Dan O'Brien, everybody. And I've been working with and trading with Dan for nearly 15 years. And he is an expert in the futures markets, guys. He has been doing this almost as long as I have. I think, Dan, you've been doing this for what, almost 30 years, right?
Correct.
So almost 30 years. And he has been teaching people how to trade futures for about 20 years. And he is here today to give us all just kind of a quick preview of what he's going to be presenting tonight. Because I think, at least the feedback I've gotten from the students in my room, and I know in Mike's room, Charlie's room, is they all think futures is too difficult. They all think it's too difficult to trade. Dan is here to show you otherwise. And he's also going to give you just a little taste, okay, of his algorithmic trading scenarios and the way he goes about this and how this can be easy to everyone. So with that, okay, Dan O'Brien, welcome, 30 plus year trading vet. He's got a 3-step system, okay, to help uncover futures trades, profitable futures trades. And he is going to show you just a glimpse of this trend spotting software right now. And then we are so excited to roll this out. So again, I have known Dan and worked with Dan for about 15 years. Glad to have him on the team here. You know what, Dan? You can see what's going on here. I'm going to let you explain to everybody, since futures is not my gig. We do trade some futures products on the option side, on the equity side, with VIX and SPY and Qs, things like that. But we're talking about ES, and we're talking about other products here that is so accessible. So why don't you explain to everybody, what's so great about trading futures?
Well, thanks for having me, Scott. And
yeah, of course.
Hello, everybody. So as you were speaking there, the answer for me, and I wonder if a lot of people are in the same boat here, is well, let me pose a question. How often have any of you listening to me speak right now have been long a stock, and the entire stock market goes up, maybe the S&P goes up 30 points for the day, but your particular stock went down a couple of dollars, and you pull your hair out and say, how did that happen? And hopefully it doesn't happen often, but it's the one off and you happen to be long that stock where the whole market went up. Well, trading futures is the whole market. So that can't happen to you either. Now, of course, individual trades are what they are, but if the whole market is going up, you are buying the whole S&P or buying the whole Nasdaq, the derivative of the cash markets, of course. And so that kind of solves that problem. So for me, going way back, I ran into that frustration a bit and said, well, if I was just long the S&P 500, I would have made money. So there's a difference right there. But of course, there's a lot of leverage involved. And so when people, well, you mentioned, if you're as old as I am. So way back when we started, there was an actual big S&P, and it was worth $500 a point. And then the minis came out; they were worth $50 a point. Now we have the micros. Now the big S&P is just gone, so it's the minis and the micros. And so even the micros have plenty of, and just a large amount of volume. So slippage on the fills is almost, they're just really doesn't hardly exist unless some news happens to come out right when you get into a trade. But great volume, great leverage, easy to get in and out. And there's places for you to trade either the minis or even the micros, like when you first get started, so that you're not risking a great deal of money. So you can have skin in the game, if you will, while trading the micros and still, build up a little bit of money over time, and then understand how the market works, how the futures work, how the leverage works, and then move your way up to the minis and just hopefully take on more profits.
And it's not just in the ES, which is the mini. It's in other products as well, right? Across the futures space. I mean, not
Sure.
not just the ES. Tell everybody else, Dan, what else you're focusing on. What kind of is your sweet spot?
Sure. So if somebody is, let's say, for example, you're a stock trader and you really love just two of the biggest names out there, Apple and Nvidia. Well, if you're really good at, watching those individual names, and as far as if is it bullish, is it bearish, then you want to focus on the Nasdaq and then the micro Nasdaq. But there's other markets out there that are very popular, of course, and very active, like gold. And by the way, all of these markets have a micro, so just keep that in mind. So it's not just the equity markets, but gold, silver, copper, and crude oil, just to name a few. Especially crude oil, that's important around the world, of course. And gold has been just very, very strong. I think it just made a new all-time high, maybe earlier this week. Can't really remember, but it was
It
recent.
did,
So,
and speaking of, excuse me for interrupting. Speaking
sure.
of, everybody thinks of gold, and it's $3,000 stock, right? I mean, if you look at the price of gold, but through the CME, they are continually coming out with new products and micro products, and I know that there is a smaller product for gold as well. So, like you were saying with the ES, you want to start out, you want to get in with those micros. Boy, the whole entire complex, you could trade smaller contracts.
That's right. All of the futures, it didn't start out this way. It first started out with just the ES, and I think everything starts with the ES, right? The
Yeah.
S&P 500. Uh, but eventually the CME rolled out micros for everything. And so, yes, you can get a micro gold. I believe there's even a micro silver. And quite frankly, if someone's new to futures, I would recommend them starting out in the micros. And that
Sure.
even goes for someone who has a very large account size. It doesn't matter how much money you have. You need to take this as like a business, and you don't want to jump into a deal that could be a bad deal just because if it loses, or if it's not a good deal in whatever business you happen to be in, you're like, oh, that's all right. I've got a couple $1 million. I can, do that. Now, just always start out with the micros, and so that you can get a feel for the futures market and how that particular uh, product trades. Because I'll tell you, the difference between, let's say, the ES versus the way gold trades is completely different. The way the NASDAQ trades versus crude oil, totally different. So if you really want to dive into something like a crude oil market, trade the micros, spend a lot of time really focusing on that so that you get an idea of like what the fingerprint is for that particular market. And then you'll understand that they are very much that they're very different, and of course they should be. The supply and demand for oil, of course, has nothing to do with equities, so they're going to trade differently. And then you'll get a much deeper understanding of how the overall particular market that you're using works, like crude oil, for example, and it'll make you a better trader, even if you're using standard technicals or supply and demand or algorithms. But you need to understand a bigger picture of it, and definitely spend some time on those using the micros.
And that's what our new futures program is going to be doing. You're going to have, just like you have me here and Charlie in his room and Mike in his room, you're going to have Dan there all day long, guiding you along the way. Now, before we go into the automated side of futures trading, which Dan has created, we got to get at least 30 smash likes, okay, before we move on. Mike Clark, how many do we have yet? Do we have 30? I want actually, we're sitting at 27. Okay, we're not moving on here, folks. We are not moving on until we get 3 more likes. Man, it's like pulling teeth every day from you folks. We're giving you so much great information. All we ask is that you hit that like button. Come on. 37. Oh, boom. Here we go. And you know what? Before we do that, let's get the word of the day. And Dan is new to this, everybody. So every day we have a word of the day that goes on to a wheel that will spin at the end of the live stream here for our people to win some swag. So what you're going to see now is everybody writing futures into the chat here, and they get entered into this contest, this daily contest here for the end of the day. So you guys keep doing that, and I'm going to turn it back to Dan here, and Dan is going to show you just a little bit. He's going to go into a lot more detail tonight on this. He's going to show you just a little bit here about his automated algorithmic trading software. All right, so Dan, turning it over to you, man.
Okay, so I will click present.
Perfect. Share your screen. I just took mine off.
Right, present.
Got to add it.
Yep, I got it.
Okay.
And there we go. We're going to look at the trending program, of course.
There we go.
There you
Nice.
go.
Okay.
Okay, so first of all, there's several things on the screen here, and we can't go into all of them. I could spend at least an hour explaining in detail or more everything that's on here. Starting with at the very bottom, this is a trending algorithm where my pointer is, and then we have the big money algorithm that's following where's the big money, the high frequency traders and others, hedge funds, etc. And are they on the buy side or the sell side? And then a signal processing algorithm predicting the direction of the market over short periods. And then, of course, what's this blue zone and what are these red zones up here? Those are the blue zone is a large area from market profile. Many of you may be familiar with market profile, and that's a range of condensed, basically distributions over a daily basis that if you trade over the same range for a long period of time, you can see quite a large support or resistance range. So we talk about that in the room every day. I do a video that every night that goes out to everyone who uses Karnak, is what I call the overall program. And you would get 3 support and resistance levels from market profile. And then the red zones up there are an auto-generated program for a high probability buy and sell zones. They're red because they're sellers, and you could see as the market went up to them. This is a pretty good example here today. Came off of it, and they're 2 separate ones. But again, I could talk about all of these things individually for at least an hour, but we don't have time for that.
Will tonight.
Yeah, we'll have more time tonight. That's correct. So the 1, 2, 3 method, though, is something that I use myself and use to teach people. Is that well, let me say this first. All 3 of the algorithms are very sophisticated. The programming's already been done, so you don't have to worry about knowing the code or anything or the math behind it. The way I look at it, it's sort of like, well, the engine in your car is very complicated when you put everything together. I don't need to know how to be a mechanic to turn that key, or nowadays just press the button with your foot on the brake and the car starts. I need to know how to drive it. So the point of the information tonight and being in the trading room and the videos is to learn how to drive the algorithms, to learn how to trade it properly. Like any tool, all of these are individual tools. And if you don't know how to, for example, use a hammer properly and you're using the claw side, you've got the right tool for a job, but it's not, it's not working correctly when you're using the claw side to hammer a nail in.
It's like using the left-handed screwdriver.
Yeah, exactly.
My dad always used to trick me with that.
You have to use the tools properly. And so that's where the education comes in. So,
and let me ask you a question, Dan, because I know I'm seeing a lot of questions. How much of this automation, right, is really automated?
Sure. So it's auto assist. So the program, once you click start, it's going to go along with the car analogy. It will be in park. It's on, but it's in park. And when you ask the program to start looking through different states, it'll go from one state if everything's valid, then the next state everything is valid. So it's doing it on its own now because you clicked, like, say, for example, start. And then it will automate everything. And if there's a trade, and I'll show you where there would be a few here, then the targets come out, the trailing stops come out, they move automatically. Everything is done once it's on and it's in park. Once you put the car in drive, now it's driving on its own, like a Tesla auto drive or something like that. All right. So once you tell it to go or to look for a trade, then it's completely automated from there. So what's the difference once you're of being completely automated? Once you're out of a trade, whether you've gained or lost, the car goes back into park. It won't move anywhere until you put it in gear. Okay. So once again, with understanding how the market works and how it trades and how the program goes through each state, then you'll know, okay, this is looking pretty good. Maybe we're near a double top, and I'm going to set it back into look for a trade. And once you do that, if things line up, then once again, it will be completely automated from there. But in order to stop, let's say we get into what I call a coffin of congestion or a rectangle of regret in the trading room when the market is just trading sideways and it's just super chop, you can have false positives and have losers, and we don't want that. If it's going through that sort of sideways tight range and the car is always in park, it's not getting into a wreck. And so if it's in that tight range, you say, man, I should be doing something else. Well, you don't have to worry because it's not going to trade for you until you ask it to. But again, from there, it's completely automated. How's that, Scott? Does that answer your question?
Answers it for me. And I know, this is it's like a foreign language, right? For most people starting to learn this, just like anything is, if you're going to learn trade options or whatever it is. But there we go. And Dan is going to really hone in and go into much more detail about this tonight, guys. But the reason that we brought Dan and his program in and the whole futures program is because just as we saw years ago a huge shift in migration to trading options and the potential for what that is out there now in the futures world, like we talked about earlier, with all of these products, all of the smaller products that allows ease of access for people, the massive amount of leverage, the fact that you can trade most of these products 20 pretty much 24/7, right, Dan? Or round the
Yes,
clock?
23/7.
23/7. Okay. Yeah, there you go. Um, the ease of access into this, so many people were asking us futures. Well, here we are, folks, and you can do this absolutely side by side, trading with whatever else you're trading in the equity market. So Dan is the guy. I mean, if you want, guys, you should all look up Dan, right? He didn't just appear out of nowhere. He's been doing this again almost as long as I have, just on the future side of things. And Dan is not only an amazing trader, he's an amazing educator as well. So he would, he has the patience of a saint. Is kind of what we know him to be like. So that is a little taste of futures, guys. I know according to the poll here, I'm looking at, seems like a lot of people are interested in futures. So we just put, yes, it's 23/7, Paul, because there's 1 hour a day that the futures market is not open. Okay. But otherwise than that, I mean, if you're an insomniac like me and you don't, Gene, you want to get up in the middle of the night and see what's going on.
Can I give you a quick story about something like that?
Yeah, please do, Dan.
Okay, so I don't normally trade at night on a regular basis because you have to live your life, you have a family and everything, but it's available. That's the important thing. So there was a couple of weeks, by now it's probably, yeah, it's several months ago. And if you might remember, Scott, maybe some other people listening, that there was some problems with in the Bank of Japan
Yep.
and how the Bank of Japan was making some changes and that it could affect US treasuries, and it's complicated, but I was following that, and some bad news came out on Friday, late Friday, and the market went down. The futures went down a little bit late. And then as I was reading about it over the weekend, that the Bank of Japan wasn't backing off at that time. And I told my wife, I said, I think I'm going to be up late Sunday night because I think the market's going to have a problem given what's happening with the BOJ. She's like, what? I don't even know what that means, but have fun. And I was right. That was when the market collapsed. The NASDAQ specifically almost went limit down. Now, that's a whole nother issue, but it almost went limit down. And shortly after the open, I think is when it really came close. But that was, just an example. There's other examples, Brexit and some other things where you kind of knew there was going to be a lot of action overnight, and especially this night, which was the most recent one. And the volume was huge. It's not like it's low, especially when there's news coming out. And it was like trading during the day, even better, in fact, because there was just, big swings. And do the algorithms work the same way overnight? Absolutely. But that was a huge evening. I was up till about 3 o'clock in the morning as the market was getting killed. And, when you're a futures trader, it's okay to go short because that's often it's about half the action. So yeah, it's definitely available 23/7. And every once in a while, you definitely want to get involved when something big is happening.
Dan, what's the 1 hour out of the 23 or 24? What's
Yeah,
the 1 hour?
it's from Eastern time. It's from 6 to 7, I believe.
Perfect. Perfect. All right, everybody. Well, the wheel is closed. I'm waiting for the wheel to pop up here. We're going to have Dan spin it today. And hopefully, there we go. You guys will, that are interested, you're all going to be able to join us tonight. I'll be introducing Dan. I'll be on there as well. And it should be really good. You'll get a much more detailed look into the futures world. All right, Dan, give me a countdown: 3, 2, 1, and we'll spin this thing.
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
There we go. All right. Today's winner, is it going to be Stacy, Steven, or Steve? Oh, Stacy, you were so close. Stephen Waldorf, are you in the house? Yes, there are Bitcoin products as well, Gus. Absolutely. And there are Bitcoin futures, micro Bitcoin futures, Ether futures, micro Ether futures.
Correct.
So, yes. Stephen, you are here. Okay, you know the drill, right? Right? We'll post it up here. Shoot me an email at Prosper. There it is, prosperswag@prospertrading.com. And we will get you out the new swag. All right, Dan, thank you. I will see you in just a few hours for tonight. Hopefully you can all be in attendance. And again, guys, it's another way to be involved in the markets in a very, very conservative way, just like we go about things here, with a lot of potential upside here. And Dan's the guy you want to learn from. So thank you, Dan. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. And we will see you tomorrow. PSA, don't forget, long weekend, markets closed on Monday for President's Day. See you, everybody.
Bye, everyone. See you tonight.